All right, welcome to a little episode of Whet Your Palate, where we tell you a bit of a preview of what we just did. Now, we just had a two-part series, the first time we've ever done it in 2 separate days, but with the one and only Matt Heil, who is the director of fruit supply at this boutique wine company called Copper Cane Wines and Spirits. It was a pleasure having you, Matt. We got to get into the ins and outs of what a whole growing season looks like when you're working with growers, managing vineyards, running logistics. I mean, any highlights and beyond like the kind of stories that are a little close to home and secretive in the Napa Valley? How, but any highlights that we talked about?
Yeah, it's challenging. The environment, every year is a different. It's like talking about art, as we were discussing. Every year is a new framework or a new palette or whatever you want. There's a new canvas to be painted for each year, and every year is different. And I knew guys down the Central Coast that always said, I don't even know what normal is because every year is a different year. He's never seen the same year twice. And it's so true. And the guy's name was Rich Smith. He was down the Central Coast. Really great guy. Passed a few years ago. But I always thought, come on, there's got to be some continuity between years that are similar, but I've never seen it. And it's so true.
I think the continuity is really just the flow of the season, but every year has different challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you outlined and demonstrated a lot of the details of what goes into it. Now, while we did this in 2 parts, there is going to be a third part because we didn't get to go through all of this stuff. So you're getting this little preview for these first 2 parts in the series, but we're going to get into the nitty-gritty at some point, too.
Like 6 pages to go, right, or something?
We didn't even touch a page, dude. We just started talking, and it was like...
we didn't even get to the crazy stories. I mean... And,
there's a lot of crazy stories.
But there's also going to be an opportunity for you to drop in the comments to ask questions, because we're going to bring those back for when Matt comes back.
Yeah.
And we're going to put him through a huge rapid fire. What'd you say, 2 hours?
It'll be 2 hours of rapid fire questions and probably a whole lot of shit that we are going to have to edit. All right. Go check out the episodes. Cheers.
Hey, have you met the other Matt Heil?
I have.
You just met him like in passing?
Backstory. I got hired at Mondavi in 1996, and they put the job posting that I had been hired. And David Heil thought it was a joke that someone was gagging him with a joke on the intercompany newsletter. Anyway, long story short, I hooked up with David Heil. This is like in 1997, the spring, and found out I existed and that I was really Matthew Heil, and I'm from Sonoma. And he was like, "We never met." I'm like, "Yeah, weird." So then years later, I got him and my dad together to talk, and they're both from the same town or same area of Germany in Prussia, which is on eastern Germany, where Prussia used to be. And they both emigrated through Hamburg at the same time. Their family is Roman Catholic. Our family is Protestant Lutheran. They ended up in Indiana. Our family ended up in Nebraska. And it was one of those things like, we're leaving the church and like let's say we're brothers and like we'll never talk to them again, and you're living in the same town. But
oh God, really?
One side's Lutheran, one side's Catholic. And
did you ever find out if you guys are related ancestry-wise?
I guarantee you we're related. I never did.
But Heil's actually a very common name.
It's a very common name, yeah.
This is so... I did not know this. This is so weird, like Napa Valley shit. I just thought it was
but it goes back way before. That's the cool part. Way before Napa Valley.
He looks exactly like my dad's uncle on my dad's side, my dad's great uncle.
But did you never know? Like Edward Norton is a direct descendant of Pocahontas.
Edward Norton is?
Yeah, the actor.
Shut up.
Dude, hey, look it up, please.
Edward Norton is really... that's weird. But anyway, long story short, I worked on the Central Coast, and he worked up in Napa Valley, and then he and his son, his family, so David Heil and his wife, they've got like 9 kids or something like that, live here, or maybe 6, sorry. But they live here in St. Helena, and they founded the Montessori school.
Wait, we should probably get this recording.
We're good now. Chad needs to work on his communication. Hold on.
We are recording?
We are just now, yes.
Jesus Christ. Matt, they're not usually this unprofessional.
That's right. I'm not usually this fucking late either. But anyway, then here we are.
Well, it took me an hour to get home from Napa last night at 8:30.
The road work.
It's ridiculous.
I told you to do the road work right now. It's horrible. Insane.
I've had to go to Napa last night, 2 nights ago last night, and I'm going again tonight for like whatever it was like, our distributor dinner, whatever else. You're like, Jesus Christ. It's not the drive there. The drive there, you're going to hit traffic at like 4 or 5 p.m. It's just really bad traffic right now. But coming back at like 9 p.m. where it's like a 20-minute drive, it's just painful.
This is like some local shit if anyone's like listening to this, but there's like 2 roads in from like downtown Napa into like Rutherford, St. Helena, Calistoga. You're either taking the Silverado Trail or you're taking Highway 29, and they decided to do fucking road work on both roads at the same time, and everyone here is a little.
Wait, but you mean to say
it could be worse? They could have done during harvest, which is always awesome.
You mean to say that a government agency made a decision that makes life difficult for its citizens?
Weird.
No,
we're gonna get political.
Chris, nah.
Did you have to take anything like for your ride up? I mean, to like keep you awake? Do you do that? Do you like heavy caffeine, coffee drinker? I know
coffee and Coca-Cola are a really good mix to drive long distance. That's real.
He's real. That's coffee and Coca-Cola, not Coke.
20 ounce cup of coffee. Half of it's coffee, half of it's Coca-Cola. Rest of it, some ice. And nothing will keep you wired. I mean, you can drive here straight through to Portland from here. Easy.
Okay, because I wanted to say...
Back roads the whole bit. And you're freaking wired.
You just
And if you eat like apples and fruit, oh shit, then it's on. Your brain just...
You don't put that in the Coca-Cola coffee.
Eat fruit while you're driving. Yeah. It keeps your brain going. And
so you're just coffee
drink
and
lots
Coca-Cola.
of water. Yep.
Regular Coke, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So I know Matt's a road warrior. Like, I mean, the amount we're going to talk about your mileage and all that. Let me introduce him first. So today we've got special guest on the Go With Your Palate podcast, the famous Matthew Heil. He has a very amazing and large role at a company like no other, Copper Cane Wines and Spirits, and he is the director of Fruit Supply. And we'll talk about our history together, but we're really happy to have you on the podcast to tell your story and what it is you do and how you do it, because I think that's probably more impressive than what you do, because it's not an easy thing to do. But welcome, Matt. And
thank you.
I did want to start by asking: have you ever been back to the USSR?
No.
So let's start there. Let's get a little. Let's
start there. I want to know where that goes.
Let's let everybody know the history. Yeah. So it's starting from Eastern Europe, the Heil family, and we're going to tie this into the other Heil family here in Napa.
Oh, you're referring to the David Heil family.
The David Heil family.
All right.
But let's talk about the. Did you say Lutheran Protestant?
Yes. Yeah.
Family, yeah.
Yeah, so our family originated, my dad's side of the family is from Prussia, which is in eastern Germany now, but formerly the Republic or Kingdom of Prussia, if you will. Emigrated back in the mid-1800s during the Depression in Germany and came to the U.S. Out of the port of Hamburg in through New York and then ended up in Nebraska. So my dad's side of the family has been farming the same piece of ground for about 170 years now, back in Nebraska. They farm soybeans and corn. How we got here, Dad studied poultry science at the University of Nebraska, ended up working for a poultry company over in Sonoma called Nicholas Turkey Breeding Farms, and worked there for over 40 years. So I grew up in Sonoma Valley. So that's where I grew up. Went to Sonoma Valley High School, graduated in 85. Started working in tasting rooms in 1983 on an after-school work program with Mick Chandler at the high school in Sonoma Valley High. Had a school work program after school and worked at Buena Vista Winery cleaning bathrooms and stocking shelves. At the time, miners could handle wine. There wasn't restrictions on it. You just couldn't pour, you couldn't serve, all that stuff. But got to do that, and then was packing orders for Flying Tigers and UPS for the wine club on the side, and that was during the summer, and did that for 6 years. Went to Sac State, got a degree in history, didn't want to teach high school history. Went back to Sonoma and then got an opportunity to work with Peter Haywood up at Haywood Winery in the tasting room. I got with him and I asked him for more hours. They didn't have anything in the bottling line. They had a little bit of stuff, cleaning barrels and doing work in the cellar, odds and end jobs. And then in the summer I asked him, is there anything else? He said, well, I've got jobs out in the vineyard. He goes, you're welcome to work out in the vineyards. He goes, you'd start Monday morning, 6 o'clock. It's an all vineyard, Hispanic crew. They only speak Spanish. He goes, you're welcome to work. There's plenty of work out there. And all I can say is good luck. And I said, well, why? I've never had a white guy last more than 2 weeks. So And I got out there with the crew. We were suckering Cabernet Franc grapevines and shoot thinning and leaf pulling at the time. This is relatively new practice in the wine industry. And I got totally hooked. And I just lived for it. And then I knew I found my place.
So how long did you last in the vineyard there?
I've been in vineyards ever since. So, but
you made it, dude.
Worked with the crew that whole summer.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I know you made it way past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Did they give you like a nickname?
Yeah, Mateo, which still hangs to this day.
Uh-oh.
My first day and my first hour.
I still
that's
answer
what
the
they call
phone. I'm
me,
like,
Mateo.
"What's up, my baby Mateo?"
What's up, sweetie?
That's how you answer the phone when he calls?
Well, no, Matt and I talk so much. Okay, that
I like
this is good.
Okay, it's getting good.
No,
It's
so-
getting good.
So,
Really
so,
good.
Like the amount of phone calls I get,
Yeah.
where like we touch base quite often, and so my wife tells me one day, she goes, "If you're ever cheating on me, just save her phone number under Matthew Heil, and I won't ask any questions." So and then from then on, I started answering the phone. I'm like, "Hey, baby, what's up, honey bunny?" And so now it's
What's up,
now it's
sugar
like a
plum?
joke.
I like it.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Okay, I feel
Different
it.
every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, honey bunny? You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
I'm not jealous.
No. I can tell.
I mean, when I call, he's just kind of like, "What's up, fucker?
Like,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
what's
we're
up,
not-
you little
no, we're-
bitch?
You little bitch. What's up, you little bitch?" That's if he answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you say
and
it
you know
like-
what happens?
Do you
then
say it
some-
like too short, like bitch, or no?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Kinda.
when he says it like that, then it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. Because then I'm like, I take that as a compliment because we grew up like listening to Too Short.
Biatch.
Yeah, biatch.
I do. So okay, you started with Haywood, worked there.
Yeah.
Give us like the next couple years of your career, and but I want to make sure. So we have a Heil family here, the David Heil family here in Napa Valley. I grew up with them. I think it's 5 or 6 kids that all went to high school with us, and so it was they were a big the big family in town, and so when I first heard about you and met you. I didn't know if there was a relation, but I want you to kind of go into that part of your career.
Okay. Yeah, so I worked at Haywood for a year, and then Haywood sold out to Buena Vista Winery, which at the time was owned by Allied Demec. So Haywood moved out. Ravenswood bought the facility and moved in, and the joke was I went with the property. And so I started working in the vineyards, working in the taste room, and then the taste room thing, they had their own crew, so I was mainly in the vineyards and the cellar, and then got to work out there pruning the vineyard right across the street from Haywood. And probably a really cool story there was to tie it all together is that I got to prune the vineyard and work with the crew that was picking the grapes that we then delivered down across the street to the winery that we crushed and then put it in stainless steel tanks and then barreled it down and barrel fermented it. And then later I got to do barrel stirring when we were doing malolactic fermentation. It tied it all together. Like at that point in time, I'd already swallowed all the fishing gear on viticulture and winemaking. It was just totally in. So it was really fun. I worked there. During that time, they encouraged me to take classes at San Jose JC. So I did that with Rich Thomas up at San Jose Junior College, a viticulture program. And as I got through the second year, they said, you seem to be really into this. You should probably look at going to school. So I looked at Davis, and Davis really didn't work out for me, but I got into Fresno State. Applied to Fresno State, studied viticulture, and earned a master's degree in crop science. So I did that for 3 years and then was hired at Mondavi in 1996, which is then the David Heil story comes into play here because David Heil is a viticulturist for Robert Mondavi at the time up in Napa Valley. He has a son named Matthew Heil, one of, I think, 5 or 6 kids. And David was down on a viticulture tour in the Central Coast, and I got to meet him. He's like, "So you are real?" I'm like, "Yeah, what do you think?" And he told me the story about he thought that the folks at Mondavi were joking around that they put Matthew Heil as hired as a, I forget, viticulture technical manager on the Central Coast for Mondavi, and his son's name was Matthew Heil, spelled exactly the same.
Who we also went to high school with.
Yeah, and you guys all went to school with up here in St. Helena. And I think they founded the Montessori school. David and his wife founded that, so there's that whole story.
What I think is really cool, though, is okay, so similar part of Eastern Germany, right? The Heils.
That,
different religions.
Yes.
Okay, which and then but then immigrated probably around the same time.
Yes.
And then you ended up in your family ended up in Indiana.
In Nebraska.
In Nebraska, sorry, and they were Indiana.
Indiana, yeah, correct.
And then a few of you ended up here in wine country.
Yeah, they came out here. I think David moved out and went to school at Stanford and met his wife, and then moved up to Napa. And I don't know what he studied, business or plant science. I don't.
But you guys have never done a 23andMe to see if there's any.
No. Not yet, but
I mean, you never know. There was,
you could.
You could.
Wait, you think
you just
there's a chance that I think this is wild. That
Yeah.
There's a chance that like you guys could be related. I mean, everyone right now you're getting like behind like the scenes, deep root, like Napa Valley, like local shit right now.
Yeah.
But like, because I remember when I first started at Copper Cane about like 7 years ago or 8 years ago, I heard your name and I pictured it was going to be the other Matt Heil.
That's right.
So
I remember
then,
that.
yeah, and then I was just like, dude, he's kind of changed a little bit. Like, I mean, like from what I remember, dude. This has been like an ongoing kind of joke, but you're saying there's a chance you guys could actually be related.
Well, I looked at old pictures with my dad. So years later, up at ACV, my dad came up with me to just check it out. He was interested in the industry, and David Heil was there. So we got together for dinner that night. And my dad and David, Matthew Heil's dad, hashed it all out, and they know we're from the same area of Prussia. We're both into what happened is our family probably left the Catholic Church, and they said, fine, we'll never talk to you again. It's like one of those kind of cousin things. They turned our back, and we live on this side of town, they live on that side of town, and everybody got out of Germany at the same time. But there's pictures in my dad's photo album of like a great uncle on my dad's side, and he looks exactly like David Heil. Same, like you could just look at him. Same thing, same guy.
That's why you just never know.
So.
I mean, like that's like the Edward Norton thing, being a direct descendant of Pocahontas,
I don't.
which I know you. Yeah, I know you don't believe it.
What's this
And
fact
Art is
checking,
going to
dude?
pull it up. Edward Norton is a direct descendant of the 17th century Native American figure Pocahontas and her husband John Rolfe, making her his
No, I did
12th
not.
great grandmother. Dude, I'm just saying the internet said it's true. It's got to be.
Yeah, dude, because like AI
Never
never
doubt that,
lies,
yeah.
dude.
AI never lies.
Wait, okay, can you actually solve something for me then? Is Bill Burr and the singer of Smashing Pumpkins
Billy Corrigan.
Thank you. Are they related? Are they actually related? Because they were on a podcast together.
Bill
and
Burr
they're-
is not happy about that.
I know. I'm
That
just
tells
wondering what
me
AI
that
says.
tells
I
me
wonder
that
if,
they're
like,
related.
AI
Neither of
actually-
them knew their dad.
If Billy and Bill, because they're Billy and Bill, right? And
yeah.
it was like the same dad.
And they look exactly the fucking same.
So I know. I'm just like it's just a back and forth. They were on a podcast. I want to know: was it confirmed? Is it confirmed?
You gotta see this, dude. Matt, you gotta turn around
Being
and see this
half
picture.
brothers.
That's Billy. Fuck, I don't
in
even
a
know
small
which one is
square,
Bill.
yeah.
Bill Burr is on the right.
Yeah.
Corrigan's on the left.
Corrigan claimed his father, a touring musician, had multiple families, suggesting a potential connection.
I like how
I can't read
Bill
it 'cause
Bill
the-
Burr just doesn't even want to rip the Band-Aid off and try to find out. He's like, that's the past. I've never known this guy or this
there we
family.
go.
I don't want to deal with any drama that's going to come out of it. So okay,
It's
so
left out there.
I mean, I think that was a common
possible.
thing where like people would travel. Like, I mean, that the Bill Burr, Billy Corrigan thing's different, but like families just separated. There was no communication, right? There's no lines of communication.
No, we're the ones that probably left the church, and we're like David Heil's side of the family was like, we'll never talk to them again, and that was just.
But it's just as
and we're
fate,
too German for our own
as
good.
fate
so
would
that's
have
probably
it.
what happened.
As fate would have it, you both end up working in viticulture.
Yeah, here in Napa Valley.
In Napa Valley.
Yeah, I still talk to him every 6 or 8 months
Yeah.
or so. Talk to David and check in and say hi. And
Easy.
It
he's
is
like
wild.
still consulting around here. So yeah, it's kind of cool. So, but we joke around. Like I see Matthew Heil in a coffee shop here in St. Helena. I'm like, wait, you can't be here when I'm in town. You know that, right? There's a rule. Like there can only be one Matthew Heil in
It's
St.
small
Helena.
towns, yeah, small
And
town
You
rules.
gotta let you know. You can work your work schedule around that. So
Yeah.
he can not be here.
Yep.
Joking around. But
I know.
anyway.
I think that should be a rule.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
So we jump to your guys' love story or whatever.
Well, let me jump in on this because I know we got a lot
Go
of stuff to
ahead.
cover. But so I know you were at Mondavi,
Yep.
and Mondavi
years.
was acquired by Constellation Brands.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Constellation, publicly traded company, maybe soon to be getting out of the wine business altogether, which is not not a bad thing. I don't know if it's a good thing. I don't know. We'll see. Time will
weird
tell.
thing.
Yeah, weird thing. There's a lot of weird shit going on in the industry right now. But
Yeah.
so I used to manage all of our own fruit supply, and this is during the days like we had Belle Glos and managing those vineyards. But then Mayomi was growing. We were buying a bunch of fruit, and I was trying to hire somebody, and I'm driving up and down the Central Coast, being a road warrior like Matt does. And I'm talking to like brokers that manage, potential, fruit sources and whatever else. And so I'm about to hire this one lady who I'd known for a couple years. All the paperwork signed and everything. She calls me up. She's like, "I just found out I'm pregnant, and I don't think that I'm going to carry through with this as my career. Meaning, like, wants to be a mom. Like, totally understand. Thank you for letting me know, instead of just jumping on board and then, taking advantage of like a year of employment, and then I got to start from ground zero.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this one guy, Matt Turrentine, down on the Central Coast, he keeps telling me, like, he's like, you got to talk to this guy, Matt Heil. He works for Constellation. And at that time, I'm like, this Matt Heil dude is like the god of fruit supply, right? Like, he knows every fucking in and out of vineyards everywhere. Why do you want to come and work for like a small company and like manage our fruit supply?
That's a long story.
And so finally, I'm like pulling my hair out, and I'm frustrated because I'm trying to manage thousands of tons coming in, making the wine, marketing the wine, all this stuff. And like, I had a great team already. Like, it was, don't get me wrong, but it was adding a lot more stress than I really needed at the time, or could handle at the time. So I call you up one day, and just introduce myself, and I was like, wow, he's actually a nice guy. Because some growers would refer to Constellation as constipation.
Oh yeah,
which because I think you can negotiate, well.
Yeah.
So I think it was like the next day. I was like, well, I'm down in. I was like driving from Santa Maria to Monterey, and you're like, yeah, let's meet up in Monterey somewhere. So we met up in like, I don't know, Los Alturas, Mirasole, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And like the news broke that morning that that Constellation, the company you were working for, had just acquired Mark West, at the time like the largest Pinot Noir brand. And so you're like, oh fuck, I got.
Yeah, and I had to delay meeting with you because we were up from 3 a.m. on 6 a.m. East Coast time, because they're going to make an announcement on the stock market that day that they were acquiring Mark West. But we had to have all of our phone calls done with all of our growers between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. I think I met you at like 10 a.m. and we just got done calling all the growers for Mark West on the Central Coast, and everybody had a different area. Like, there were guys up in the North Coast in Napa or Sonoma or Lake County or over in Lodi, and and that had just happened. And you were like, all right, let's meet at 8. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to, but I got some stuff going on. I'll see. I can meet you at 10. So we met at 10, and then he finds out. He's like, yeah, you guys just bought Mark West. I go, yeah, I've been on the phone all morning dealing with that, trying to call growers and make sure everything's all square.
At that point, like that year. In your role, how many tons were you managing the supply of?
About say probably 120,000 tons and 350 growers. So
I just want to like put that into perspective. Like 120,000 tons. Like, we're a small, medium-sized winery with like 10,000 tons.
Yeah,
that's a lot of fruit.
Yeah,
it's insane just to think about. Like, that's to manage that volume. Anyways, you could take the story from there, because I think the signing you on, I'll talk to you like you're a baseball player.
Yeah, it was wild. Yeah,
the sign on was pretty
it's
awesome.
Like an all-star player you're trying to recruit, right? Like,
well, yeah. So like, as Joe mentioned, he called and talked to me on the phone and said I was a good guy. And I get home and I had this meeting with Joe, and I went and talked to my wife. Well, instantly she wants to know all about Wagner and Camus Vineyards and all this stuff. And we start looking at videos, and we're both like going, God, he's like genuine, he's sincere, he's like really nice. I go, yeah, if you met him in person, that's what you would see. And so we watched all this stuff. She's like, all right, well, you've been frustrated for quite a while, but you've been, powering through it. And if you think this is a good move, then let's think about that. So later we met again, like in August, and then lined up to get together. And I'm talking with Gina, Joe's still executive secretary now, about a signing letter. Like, you have to sign. I forget.
An employment
note, acknowledgement of the intent to work for somebody. I don't know how you
offer letter.
What's that?
Offer
letter. Yeah. So offer letter. So we talk on the phone that morning, and we got everything done. And then and I tell Joe, this is just a more amazing day. This is a great day in more ways than one. He's like, how's that? Like, I said, well, not only am I going to come work for you, but I'm going to the World Series tonight. And Joe's like, really? Because I'm going to the World Series too. I'm like, no shit. So,
my God.
Because this is like 8 or 9 in the morning. And then anyway, I was going with the guys from Williams-Sonoma. Williams-Sonoma was one of our growers on the Central Coast. And so I was really thick with those guys, still am today. And really, producers of really world-class Pinot Noir, West Side, Sonoma County, and they own a winery in Italy, and they do a lot of Millbrook Winery in New York is another one. Anyway, so I was going with them and their whole crew from Williams-Sonoma. We're all meeting in San Francisco at like the Fairmont, and then we're all going to walk down the street or get down to the ballpark. Well, I'm at the Fairmont. We're all hanging out. Everybody's drinking champagne. We're all having a really great time. And I get this phone call, and it's Joe. I'm like, oh crap! Like, excuse me for a moment. People are like, everything okay? I'm like, yeah, no, it's my wife. I gotta take this call. So I go outside. Joe's like, hey, I'm on the ferry right now. I'm coming to the game. I go, yeah. And we talked. I want to meet you, but I got to ask you some questions. I go, what's that? He goes, who is Steve Smith and Dave Magnasco and Greg Fowler? I'm like, Jesus, John, what? And he's like, well, I'm going with Mark Couchman from Silverado Partners and all these guys from Constellation.
One of our growers at the time.
I'm like,
yeah.
well, so like Steve Smith is my boss's boss. Dave Magnasco is my boss. And Greg Fowler runs the whole West Coast for Constellation Brands. Like, you're with them. And meanwhile, Joe's got this backpack.
No, I had a briefcase. I'm the only dude that goes to a fucking World Series with a briefcase with paperwork in it.
And it's my offer letter.
Deals there? Oh my god!
Yeah, and we were going to meet at the game and sign. I had no idea he was with all the Constellation guys.
I didn't know either.
He didn't know, and I'm like, my heart's just like going, oh my god, like it was wild. And so we get there, and everybody. I have a lot of friends that gave me crap about this, but I have this yellow, fluorescent yellow Nike jacket, like a running jacket, that I put on so he could see me. And all my friends were like, oh yeah, sure, event staff, anybody will give a reason to try and get in a game. And I wasn't event staff, I was there, but I wore this yellow jacket. Call him on his phone. He's like, yeah, I see, I got eyes on it. And he's in another area somewhere nearby with this whole group of guys. And I'm like kind of wearing the jacket so he can see me, but I'm also trying to stay low key. I don't want to run into any of those guys. Like, why are you here?
They're current employers.
Current employers had no idea I was going to leave, and didn't know until like November 15th of that year when I gave them, or November 1st.
We wanted to get through a smooth harvest and all that, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think we met in the 8th inning.
Fifth inning.
Or it was fifth.
Fifth inning, and we met bottom of the fifth, and Sandoval had already hit 2 home runs. And we met down at the bar down below in the lounge behind home plate. And we met and we're talking and have a glass of wine together. And we're sitting there. And I'm looking at the paper and people are all watching the game. Sandoval gets up. I sign the letter, hand it to him, and Sandoval hits his 3rd home run out of the game. Right then and there, right after that happened. It was like wild.
And then you got a great picture. That was at that game, like.
And then
it was it a fly ball or no? It was
a picture of Barry Zito was in the game and he was coming out, and he had kind of a tumultuous career with the Oakland A's, and he finally got under the Giants and he was pitching a World Series game. And he was lights out. He had like given up like a run or two, and he's coming out of the game and he's tipping his hat to the crowd. And I'm still wearing my lovely yellow jacket, and I have my arms in there like going, yeah. And it was on the cover of the sports section of the New York Times.
It was funny. So he's in it in his fucking yellow.
My yellow jacket. I'm the only guy in the crowd.
Signed.
And I have his letter in my pocket, and Zito's coming out of the game in like
but Joe, you didn't
7th
make the picture
inning.
in the background or anything.
No, I didn't make the
picture.
picture.
You're just like
no. The growers that I was with, we weren't like right above the dugout. We didn't have seats that good.
Oh shoot!
It was like guys with William Selling Winery.
Okay.
So John Dyson and David Bova, and they're both John's one of the ownership group, and then David works. He's family works.
Let's go.
There he is, right there in the yellow jacket.
God,
Yeah, here's the event staff boy.
dude,
That's
you
me.
you are easy to spot.
Yeah, it was weird, and so
There's
he's coming
only
out of the
one
game.
other.
Yeah, so here's John Dyson. Here's Bob Cabral from the Winemaker. Peter McGowan. That's Peter McGowan. That's Peter McGowan's son and Peter McGowan's daughter. And then I'm here, and then here's Miguel next to me. Miguel was the vineyard manager at one of the Williams Selling vineyards, and the whole rest of the crew's all around us in there. I couldn't tell you all of them.
It's just awesome. I thought that was
We're all
great.
going completely nuts, you know, because Zito is like he's a great pitcher. He grew. I think he's from the East Bay, and ended up getting on the A's, and then it just didn't really work out. And then he got on the Giants, and here he is, you know, just locking down. He was going head to head against.
They won 3 World Series in 5 years. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the second of 3. In the
that was some
5-year
exciting.
period.
Those were some exciting times. I know
Really
this isn't
fun
the baseball
baseball.
podcast, but like that was fucking awesome for San Francisco to be on a run like that.
So you
And they were
still-
such like a young underdogish team.
Oh yeah,
And like I'm not a. I mean, I'm more of a sports fan now than I was, but like back then, I was not at all.
yeah. They fought the. How was it? They fought from the losers bracket all the way through, both in 10 and in 12. So, and then in 14 they did pretty well too. But so it was really wild to hook up, not hook up, but
yeah, I mean, it's a good first
hook up.
date.
We hooked up. It was a great first date.
So we've been
kidding me? Like
Epic, actually. Yeah.
And I signed to come work for Joe Wagner, and I'm starting in December.
So we've been to 2 World Series together.
Yeah. Yep.
You been to 2?
Yeah, and I've got
Series
a baseball that both of us have signed from both of those games that we went to.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
on my desk.
Really?
Yeah. They're like they're like in those little ball holders.
I'm so happy for you guys.
Yeah, it was really fun.
I know, we're sounding like we got a little deeper relationship.
No, I mean, this is great. No, I mean, you went to 2 World Series together. That's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, so the first one, like, when I first came
we weren't
on
together
board,
the first one.
at that game, I went and bought.
We kind of met.
The second one was your anniversary.
It's our 3-year anniversary.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's how we roll.
I love this. I never heard that story. It's so cool that you even made that photo and everything. It just all is like.
Well, it was really
that is a great. Like, I think that was a great way to just. That was a long opening for a podcast, but man, that was like. I think like, especially everybody internally, I like would love to hear it. Everybody in the company, but I think like even just the takeaway of. So, and I mean, we can talk about what you do now, but the fact of where you started, that's the most awesome part of the story overall. Like, and if people, like younger people are listening, it's like, hey, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, go try something. Like the wine industry is a goddamn blast. Because you started in tasting rooms. You took jobs learning viticulture, worked a bit in the winery, like all that stuff. And all of a sudden you, like you said, you got hooked, hook, line, and sinker.
Yep.
There's so many different aspects to wine that you'll find a place and have a blast, like very rewarding.
Absolutely.
And just not just a great career, but a great lifestyle.
And I would say for the industry, giving people a chance is huge. And Peter Haywood gave me a chance. Joel Peterson gave me a chance at Ravenswood. I thank them. Anytime I see them, I always thank them for that. And same with like Robert Mondavi Winery. I see all my former Mondavi colleagues from time to time, and just thank them for the opportunity. I'm still friends with Marilyn Wolfe. Marilyn ran grower relations over for Woodbridge from like the mid '80s, and I remember my first interview with her. I was just like, oh my god, like she's very, very serious, very focused, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get this job because she was like cold, but she was really good, and I still stay in touch with her to this day. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what I was hearing too, which I think is really interesting, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you got education in viticulture through schooling.
Yeah.
But winemaking, which some people go to school for winemaking, enology, you chose actually hands-on experience to get that education, right? So I feel that
working in the cellar crews, working on the bottling lines. I mean, I have an appreciation for it from all different aspects. There's so much work that goes into it that your general consumer has no idea. All the aspects.
I think that's the beauty of it. It's like, I know it's like the old adage of like art in a bottle, but like you see all of the elements that go into it, and you get hooked. You're like, everybody participated. There were all these processes, and you're working towards this end goal of like. This single bottle of wine that hopefully somebody enjoys and can kind of read through their palate as art. I think that's pretty awesome. But I mean, back to like the part of working, learning about kind of the basics, and then going back to school specifically for it.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that was, advantageous for you to actually have kind of some logical understanding as to what you needed to do, but then getting it formalized in your mind? And did you feel like you may have learned more than somebody who was just going through the theory side of it rather than the practical and then theory side of it?
I got driven by it because one summer we had a broken irrigation line that was 3 feet down. We didn't know where the break was, and I had to dig probably close to 100 yards across the field to fix the broken irrigation line so we could continue irrigating the vineyard. This is at Ravenswood at the time. And that summer, it was like, I don't know, I was like 2 weeks into digging this damn trench. And I thought, you know what? I could be doing this when I'm 50 or 60 years old, and I'll be wiped out. And there's just no way. Like, I love what I'm doing in these classes at Centers JC, and it just inspired me like, all right, I need to bust ass, use the brain, appreciate what you've done here, appreciate anybody and all the physical labor that goes into it, whether you're pruning or tractor drivers or sprayers or the guys in the cellar, the guys in the bottling line. There's so much work that goes involved with it. I appreciate that, but I was like, if I'm going to have any kind of longevity in life, I've got to use my brain, and I've got to study this and get into a role where I'm not having to dig ditches every day. And that kind of pushed it home for me. Was like, I don't want to do that when I'm 40 or 50 years old. So, having seen all the work that goes into it from every aspect of it, where you're pruning to making the wines, to bottling and making sure the fill heights are right, to making sure that the labels go on correctly. At the time, we were using glue labelers.
God,
So you had to get the labels on, or if the labels aren't on right, or if you had a glue pot that got jammed up or gummed up, oh my goodness, it was there's so many aspects of it that
I do still like the smell of that glue though.
Well, yeah, really provide a sense of calm, right? Yeah,
I know it's such a chill experience being young and doing that.
Blue Huffer, dude.
But it inspired me, and getting to back to Fresno State, and then doing what I worked on there. We were involved in everything. We were involved with winemaking trials, viticulture trials, tying it all together. With the idea was like, what happens in the vineyard goes to the winery, but you're only as good as how you make it. But you've got to bottle it, package it, and market it and sell it. And there's so much to this that I wouldn't say it's easy to make wine. It's a lot of work to make wine. A lot of people could do a lot of hard work and effort to make a great bottle of wine, but then the next aspect is how do you sell it? How do you market it? And I remember working with Joe my first year. It was Las Alturas Vineyard. And I was like enamored with the whole Belle Glos story with his grandmother and everything, and how he founded the brand. And we get up to Las Alturas, and it's like late August, and he's like, all right, so now you're going to run harvest. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, who's going to call no, you're going to call the picks. I'm like, okay, so I've known you 10 months,
we did work
months.
hand in hand for a while before.
Oh yeah, definitely. But he handed that over to me, and he's like, don't fuck it up. I'm like,
classic line.
oh,
That's the power of World Series, dude.
well,
I mean,
Power World Series, yeah.
like, you guys catapulted your relationship.
It got in. Like, here you are, at Las Alturas, which is a really amazing vineyard, and we were out in the vineyard several different times. And then he's like, right, well, now you're going to call the pick on this. I'm like, you shitting me? Like, me?
Yeah.
Like, really? You're talking to me? Yeah.
So we could talk. So calling the pick. I mean, you're calling what time when the pick is going to start. I'm saying
Well,
for
when you're
audience,
gonna
I may
harvest.
not know,
So
like you're saying.
I'm going to
Please.
jump in just a little bit because every company, I'll say, has a different perspective on how you
Absolutely.
do this, right? And sometimes it comes down to one person. Sometimes it comes down to the meat and potatoes of the contract. As simple as that, right? So larger companies, by and large, they go by the letter of the word, right? And so it's like, here are the parameters. Go ahead and pick it. And being involved in seeing what's going on and monitoring the whole season and all that, that all still gets done if you're at a high level of performance like Matt is. Regardless of the size of company, you're going to be able to do that. So, but for us, I think it can be a big change in pace for people who've worked in vineyards in the past, where we want to know the chemistry, the bricks, the pH, TA, acidity, whatever. But we want to see a little bit more development physiologically, and so everybody knows the copper cane philosophy and whatnot. And so, kind of changing that gauge of when to pick, where it could be dimpling. It could be pushing like dehydration, like getting close to raisiness, which we don't necessarily want. But every season's different. And we'll call the pick based on what we think will make the best wine for what our style is.
Yeah.
And so that was something, I don't even know. How was your learning curve in that? Did you feel like you evolved into it pretty quick?
I evolved into it pretty quick. It was interesting because Joe likes to pick at a higher level of maturity than I'd ever been used to picking at. So when we would have programs for, say, Merlot, for example, on the Central Coast, we'd start at 23.5, but don't go over 25.5. Well, shit, we didn't even start considering picks until it was 25.5 on Pinot. And it was like, oh my God. And, I'd send a load in and be like, yeah, no, we need to wait a little bit. And be like, seriously? It's like, yeah, no, it's not ready. Okay. And so we'd wait another week, we'd sample it, and I'm, at the time, which the coolest thing was going back to when I first worked at Mondavi, we looked at bricks, pH, TA on every single lot, every single clone, every single block. And, as we evolved my career into other wineries that I worked for, we were looking at bricks, you're looking at condition of the fruit, you're looking at some flavor, but, we had thousands of tons to get through different facilities every week. And so you had to hit a mark. If you waited for everything to be perfectly ripe, you're going to jam a winery up and you wouldn't be able to get throughput of getting those tanks fermenters turned. Get to copper cane, and we're waiting for the There's a term that
Optimum.
convergence.
Convergence.
We had the convergence.
Physiological
Fred Nunez
maturity.
had this convergence of physiological maturity and ripeness, and they would come together at this optimal time.
It doesn't happen. No, it sounds romantic, but no. He was a grower out in Russian River. Is a grower out in Russian River.
Yeah.
But like a perfect year is like when you hit perfect physiological ripeness with what your target sugars, acidity, and pH are. Right. Doesn't necessarily happen every year, but it doesn't mean. I could say like 2025 was one of the best years we've had for Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
From a quality perspective, I don't know. You haven't tasted them yet, but man, like the Dairyman stuff out of Russian River, it's off the charts. Like I tasted it yesterday.
Nice.
And so, but was that the Convergence? Like, well, I thought it was really fucking good, but
Yeah.
I don't know that it was like optimum. I don't want to say that it was the best because I want to imagine that there's better vintages in the future too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so every year is a little bit different. But yeah, that's where I think going based off physiological nature is better than just chemistry.
And you're looking at seed maturity too, what he's referring to. It's like you're looking at the seeds ripen as the flavors develop. You're looking for the acidity. You're looking for really the way I describe it to people ask, like, well, how do you know? It's like, okay, if you buy a plum off the shelf at the grocery store and you bite into it and the pith still, the meat of the fruit's still sticking to the seed or the pit of the plum, and it's still got acidity and it's not quite there, well, okay, you picked your plums too early. Or if you pick plums off a tree and it has that. Now, if you pick a plum and you bite into it and the pit just separates from the pith, from the actual fruit, the meat of the fruit, right away, you're there. It's the same thing in wine grapes. You can bite into grapes, taste them as the seeds dissociate from the pulp. They just slip apart and they're brown, they're crunchy, and you're in the zone.
There's no astringency to that pulp.
Yeah.
There's no, I think the plum is a really good example because that really shows in a more magnified way how that bitterness towards the center, you want it to be like sweet all the way through. Some people like the bitterness. I think the same thing with wine. Some people like that bitterness, that acidity, that astringency. They're called kami-samis, but we make wine for people that like actual good stuff.
We pick it right.
And so, is there any other
stylistically, we're doing
details
something
like that from except from the fruit, say that you could look for? Because obviously copper cane, we've gone where the name kind of comes from. So if we're looking at the canes, is there any other kind of details that you look for making a great wine when you're walking through the vineyards? Because
I think you got to ask Matt about more like run us through your season, what you're looking at, and I'll chime in from time to time about some of the things I look at because. We may look at different things. Some of them very analytical. Some of them very just extremely primitive. But yeah, so if you want to start with, where do you want to start? Pruning?
I'd start with pruning, and then when you're out in the field at pruning, you can tell a lot by a vineyard. Let's say we're talking, mid-January, and a grower's about to prune the vineyard. You can look at the cover crop, and you can tell, like, going primitive for a second, just basic. No soil pits, no aerial maps or anything like that. You can look at a vineyard, you can tell by the cover crops alone if it's a really thick cover crop or if it's got areas that are patchy and sparse with sparse growth. You can tell a lot by what's in the vineyard, in the soils of that vineyard. And then you can look at the growth of the vineyard too. So you're looking at is the vine growth really uniform across the vineyard? Are the canes nice and mature and with that beautiful copper cane mahogany color to them across the whole vineyard? You can see that. Is the growth uniform from one end of the vineyard to the other? On the really good vineyards we buy fruit from, you can have some variability in the vineyard, but typically if it's very uniform, that's a really great sign as to that you're going to have a better chance of making a good wine. If there's a lot of
did it fill out the canopy completely? Are there weak patches? Is the girth of that cane wood all consistent, or are there really thin spots where it's pencil thickness versus the thickness of your pinky, right?
Yep.
So is the pinky girth what you're looking for?
It's really subjective. Every person likes a different girth.
But pinky girth is good. Is that what we're saying?
That could be too much vigor. But no, generally speaking,
but having vigor is a good thing.
Generally speaking,
going a different tangent here, but anyway, we're not.
Generally speaking, pinky is like at the base is kind of what you want it. I mean, everybody's got a different size pinky, but
if it's the size of like a pencil, like a number 2 pencil, that's too small, and you need to prune it hard to try and invigorate the plant to grow at that spot.
It's called a micro
spur prune.
shoot.
Micro shoot. I know, but I have to ask
like
though,
a weak shoot.
But if the girth is really thick, it's thicker than your pinky. Say like the girth.
Well, if it's
is
the
like
size of your
sausage.
finger, your pointer finger on here, and you've got two good spurs on it, you probably got
What's it saying?
a decent vigor or decent growth on the plant. I'm generalizing in a large way here, but if you've got really good lignification all the way up from the base of the shoot all the way to the top of the canopy, and then the laterals that may have formed off of that are also lignified, and you've had uniform senescence, which means the leaves are dropping off the vine. You'll have weak plants out there that are still holding onto their leaves, say in late November, early December. Going out to the vineyards, I learned this a long time ago from some of the guys at Ravenswood, is they go out and look at vineyards after and say, okay, where are my weak spots? Where are my issues in the vineyard? And they go out and just look at where the leaves are. Where the leaves are senescing, that's usually your areas, the weak not weak patches, but lighter soils or lower vigor soils or vines that were in balance, that were already had good cane lignification, already matured and already gone dormant really well and uniformly in that part. You'll have some other parts where they're still holding on to the leaves, and that could be weakness, it could be virus. There's a lot of levels to it.
So going back to so every vineyard you're going to assess differently. Uniformity is probably the main point that you want to achieve or see, and if there needs to be corrective action to attain mature or uniformity, then that's another story. But you can tell a lot, like Matt's saying, from cover crop, from the girth, the filling out of the canopy, what was, because you have no leaves on it at this point, right? This is prior to pruning. Get into pruning. And one thing I think that Matt does really well is, how do you balance a vine? If you do have a weak vine or a young vine, you're not going to leave all of those buds that are potentially going to become shoots and carry a crop. You're going to cut that back heavier, or you have a more vigorous vine, or the rest of the vineyard is uniform. You're going to try to stay as consistent as possible, so you have uniform amount of shoots, uniform amount of clusters and fruit, so that you have continuity throughout the entire block.
We usually look at things like in a vineyard, if there's 10% weak plants, you look at those plants, you talk to the grower and say, okay, I want you to prune these like this, and here's why. Because I'm trying to build those plants to become more uniform like the other 40 or 50% that are out there. So you can really get them to be more uniform and more like the other vines. So you're trying to develop those. You're looking at a bell curve. What you want is your bell curve to be a lot of it in the middle. You don't want a lot of weakness on one side or a lot of excess vigor on the other side. You're trying to get that thing into a zone. And it's usually the weak vines are the ones that you're trying to get them to bring them into the middle, or the median, if you will.
So I'll say that Matt's not only a fruit supply manager. That seems like that's just a title, right? And we don't really take titles so seriously around here.
Not anymore.
But you're like, you also act as a consultant.
Yeah.
You act as a consultant as to the growers.
Yes.
So if you see a weak spot, I know Matt will be out there talking to the growers and saying, hey, maybe I'd recommend a compost mix this tonnage per acre in just this area, and he'll go out and he'll actually mark off. This isn't just for before pruning to help vigor. This will be for areas to pick, because you may not have uniformity in picking throughout. We have a lot of the season to get through, but we're just starting here. But he'll go out and mark with marking tape, like pick up until this vine, and then stop. We're going to wait on the rest.
And you're G.I. Joeing it across rows to say, okay, here's the vigor line that goes down across. You don't have the time to run in and out of every row to mark. You're crawling underneath between drip lines and irrigation wire or trellis wires and marking it out, so you can tell the guy, like, here's the area, and then you can do a Google map or something and map it out. But that's great. You hand it to a guy, but they're going to get out there and be like, well, I think he stops here. But if you flag it with flagging tape on there, you can tell you can inform the grower about what to do. And other aspects like nutrition management or pest and disease management, we work with them on, like, if they've got disease issues, let's work on improving their spray program. If they've got nutrition issues, work on that. We had one vineyard over in Lodi, and they had a big patch, like, of the 50-acre block, 10 acres of it was weak. It's like, is it nematodes? Is it soil? Is it the railroad tracks that went through and they excavated soil out of there so there's less soil or topsoil in that area? And they went through and aggressively put on a compost in that area to try and invigorate it, to get it to be more uniform. And it's helped. It's a work in progress, but it's been there for like 30 years. It's like, well, what happened in this? Was it a peach orchard? Is there something in the soil in this area that's different?
Yeah, do they scour the topsoil off?
Yeah, and so you just don't know. So
Yeah.
but you get in the growing season, like making sure they're doing the shoot thinning properly, that they're doing their wire moves at the right times, they're doing their leaf removal properly as we get, say, April into May, so that the fruit zone is nice and uniform and open for providing for good pesticide or fungicide applications into the fruit zone. And then you also have good airflow, and you also have good sun exposure too. So you can try and uniformly ripen the crop without getting sunburn. So
I think maybe let's relate this to another crop, right? It could be plums, it could be almonds. They'll have a contract to send to a packer, right? And that contract, there's not like a farm plan typically put to these contracts. There's an expectation of the product arriving at the packing location and hitting certain parameters. But by and large, if they do it right, they're going to hit those parameters. But you're looking much deeper into grapes, in my opinion, in the sense that you need to follow a pretty stringent farm plan to be able to achieve the style or level of quality you want. Because it's easy enough to say, we're going to throw a bunch of nutrients, we're going to throw a bunch of water, we're going to grow the hell out of these vines, and we're going to set the biggest crop we can, and we're going to send it to the winery when it hits 25 bricks, and they're going to make whatever the hell they make. We don't give a shit. That was the Oregon mentality, by the way. I will say, I'm going to throw Oregon under the bus. The Oregon mentality is very much the grower tells you when they're bringing the fruit in. Our growers, the ones we worked with, Matt worked with, and really, I think, taught them a shit ton. If you think about who you taught the most to, and what I've seen, you taught Oregon more than you've taught anybody. Like, you brought them out of the dark ages. But
went from picking everything in macro bins on car trailers to picking fruit in 6-ton gondolas on large semi trucks. So it was kind of fun. But it was fun to evolve that.
Well, you brought
guys.
the efficiencies into it. But I think the farm plan is what I wanted to get to here, where you've developed a farm plan that goes with every contract, yes. and then it's also the involvement, the follow up, the guidance, and that kind of, again, kind of consulting. Like, you're a free consultant, in my opinion, to a lot of these growers.
On behalf of the winery, sure.
But on behalf of the winery, so that we get better fruit. And I think that the growers they've all appreciated it. They're like,
always,
they'll come back and be like, man, either I learned so much. It was great to have the guidance and the extra eyes in the vineyard and meeting with the crews, whatever else. And I mean, tell us a little bit about your farm plan overall.
We look at all aspects of how the vineyard's pruned, to the shoot thinning, the leaf removal, to pest and disease management, to crop load management or crop yields, because we're trying to get growers to farm to a level that's in balance with the size of the canopy. So you've got a canopy growth, say 48 inches to 60, 4 to 5 foot panel of grapevine shoot growth. But you're trying to get that in balance with the amount of fruit that's on the vine. Now, if the clusters are really huge and well filled, like they look like table grapes you buy at the grocery store, it's probably a good chance, depending on the size of the clusters, that they're going to be overcropped. So you're trying to get in a balance that the canopy can handle ripening the crop to achieve the parameters of what we're working on. We pick very ripe, but we make some really beautiful wines. And the wines that we make have got really good flavors and really good flavor development, and they're rounded and full-bodied and got really good structure and intensity. The intensity comes from ripening, in my opinion, and I would think you'd agree with that.
Definitely,
But we're looking for seed maturity is probably the most paramount thing. That, and then the copper cane thing. When he first told me about copper cane, I'm like, what, copper cane? Like, what is? And then he explained it. I'm like, okay, that's legit. That's cool. Like the copper cane vines. Yeah, and I use that in presentations all the time, talking to people about how when a vine senesces and it goes in fully dormant from a green shoot during the growing season, as it lignifies, it lays down lignin in the shoots. And lignin's just wood. And as it lignifies properly, you get really good, beautiful color. If you get a really good copper to mahogany color to it, that's a really good sign that you've got a balanced vineyard. So as you go through the growing season from summer into veraison or color change, and as the fruit starts to ripen up, you'll start to see the shoots are lignifying, they're forming wood, and they're starting to transition from, I hate the word transition, but they're changing from, so we'll have to strike transition. Or you can leave it in, because we're not transitioning here. All right?
There's no hormones involved.
There's no hormones. Well, there is plant hormones involved.
But we're not injecting hormones.
We're not injecting
not
hormones into the
injecting
plant.
hormones.
No, sir. Wow, we went down that rabbit hole.
I like this flow of conversation.
But
Go
I
ahead.
do agree with, like, I mean, everything Matt's saying, like, and I think this might be a fun time for us to do kind of like a bit of a rapid fire round, because like I think people don't realize all of the steps, and it's not a whole lot of steps, but if we broke it into the main part of the main two parts, right? So you have your let's call it your vegetative cycle of your plant.
Yep.
And then you have your ripening cycle of your plant.
Yeah.
And the things that need to go on during those things. So starting the vegetative cycle, just give me like 3 things you're looking for at pruning in a vineyard.
At pruning in a vineyard, uniform lignification, uniform growth or stem caliper of the actual shoots themselves, and then also after the vineyard's pruned, if the spurs or the fruiting units have been evenly distributed along the, so if it's a cordon train vine, so you've got an arm, there are spurs along the arm, are they evenly distributed? You typically want to see good distribution between, like, say, a hand width or a thumb all the way to your knuckle or fist, if you will, between those spurs. Or with canes, that the canes aren't left too long and you don't end up with like vine that can handle 2 canes or vine that can maybe handle 4 canes. That the canes are uniform, they're uniformly lignified, they're not weak, they're not discolored. So you'll see some vines that are overcropped, that if there's a cane up on the wire and there's part of it's got hardened off and lignified and part of it's still like green or green tissue, that's not a good look. And so that's another aspect.
And
I could go off on.
I'm going to add to each
deep
one of these rapid fires too,
Okay.
along with you. So uniformity, right? So, or balance in uniformity,
Yep.
where you want to assess an individual vine and say, how many buds are we going to allow? I know we talked about
Yes.
that in a sec. So that's going to tell you roughly how many shoots and roughly how many clusters, and
Yep.
then you'll pair back from there. So that's something that I also look at when it comes to pruning, whether it's cane or cordon pruned.
Yeah.
And positioning is so key when
Huge.
like a good operator is going to be able to assess in the moment where that shoot is going to grow. You don't want things growing into each other and
Right.
congesting the canopy and congesting the fruit zone. So if you have a decision of these 2 spurs and there's 2 more spurs over here, one's higher, one's lower, you might actually allow the higher spur to be the one you're focusing on to reposition the growth in the next year, because you're not thinking 1 year with pruning, you're thinking 2.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then allow for growth here. So you're going to continue to keep your positions low, as low as possible, but also not congest the fruit zone.
Yep.
So then jumping next into, let's go shoot thinning.
Shoot thinning, that it's done properly, that typically on a head trained cane prune vine, that the head's opened up nice and even. You've left a couple of shoots. There'll be the renewal shoots for the following year, or renewal canes, if you will. They're shoots now, but then they harden off, become the canes you're going to leave as fruiting for next year. That it's done anything in the weak shoots, or a shoot, let's say it's less than from my elbow to my fingertip, but it's a weak shoot, so it's say 15 to 18 inches in length, and it's straggly looking and it's got 2 clusters on it, it's not going to ripen up properly. It's already typically they're stunted. I've always heard growers tell me, oh, well, no, it'll grow out of it. They never grow out of it. They're all full of shit. Then if you have a weak shoot, it stays a weak shoot, and it doesn't change.
And the next year's shoots are going to be
and then
weak
you've
too.
got it stunted. Yeah, so that weak position leads to another weak position the following year. So if you have pruned it properly, you don't end up with a weak shoot. Now, consider the season you're in right now, and you get rid of those types of weak shoots. You focus the growth on fewer shoots across the fruiting area, whether it's cane or along a cordon, and they end up with really good growth, and then they're likely to be able to ripen up the crop to what we're trying to do. But I also want to see the fruit nice and evenly distributed along the fruit zone too, because it's going to evenly ripen. And then when it gets to get picked, if it's spaced out properly, you don't end up with pest and disease issues. Not always the case. Sometimes you can end up a hail event or a rain event, and you end up with rot that you weren't counting on. If they're really congested in there and the clusters are all jammed up on top of each other, you don't get good airflow, you don't get good fungicide applications. And then when you do get a rain event, you can end up with botrytis or bunch rot developing on the fruit, and
So,
it causes
like,
a problem.
Yeah, I'm hearing like uniformity, positioning as well. That's also another thing correctively you can do. Catering to the vine, where the vine should be putting its energy. So
Correct.
you're getting rid of anything that's in excess, that's not uniform in growth, that's going to be consistent in creating a crop that is going to be quality. And then I'd also just add suckering into that with, again, redirecting the energy of the vine rather than it going to suckers or like just random shoots that are popping out. I'll simplify it by saying that's what it is. That you're continuing to push the vine to focus on what you want it to focus on, and you'll have like doubles. I think that's something people don't ever realize. Like you'll have one bud that pushes out two shoots.
You know, the primary shoot and the secondary shoot all push out of the same bud. Now you've got two buds at one location, so you have to get rid of the secondary shoot. So,
Okay.
and you get to pick which one you want to keep.
So then when you think about like, there's one thing that I think it's not controversial. It's just a preference because then you go into leafing. But I actually prefer when you're knocking leaves, the basil, the lower leaves off while shoot thinning. Is that what do you think? Do you have a preference on either leaving them or do you care?
I think the bottom 2 to 3 leaves on the canopy interior. So if you've got a fruiting zone that's like wide like that, I don't know if this is helping out, but if you've got shoots that are growing up in there, you want to pull the interior leaves in there and try and retain leaves on the outside so you don't end up with sunburn or sunburn issues.
Well,
but typically you're trying to open it up with the basil.
That's actually on the leafing pass. But,
on the morning side.
Yeah, but on the during the shoot thinning period when those lower leaves are generally not really they're not gonna be providing the true like coverage for shade.
Right.
In either case, I think it's just kind of like, do you want to do the job now or later? But part of it is also like shoot thinning. You want to be able to just knock these off, right? Yes. Like, and so there's a period of time before the shoot itself becomes like, think of it like the roots of that shoot are becoming really part of that vine, and now you're going to have to cut them off. You can just pop them off with your finger for a period of a couple weeks.
It's easy to do earlier in the season. I'm a little bit more biased towards if you can go through with mechanical air shear leaf remover devices during bloom or between bloom and set. Up in Oregon, I work with one of our growers up there, and they went from trying the Collard implement on, say, 50 acres, and they ended up doing 160 acres, and they did it the first year. They tried it and they liked what they got, and they had an issue with botrytis, and they had no bunch rot in that area where they did the machine leaf removal, and it was pulling off the bottom 3 to 4 nodes of leaves on the outside of the canopy, and then they do a hand follow-up pass. Well, then the following year they did 2 passes, and they didn't have to do any hand follow-up on the outside or the canopy interior, and it was getting rid of the leaves in the fruit zone. It was really effective, and we're talking 165 acres where the hand crews would go through on the areas like the swales where there are more vigorous areas to open them up and do a follow-up pass. But early in the season, getting rid of those leaves early on is great. You can have laterals that will form and throw lateral shoots after you get rid of that leaf in the fruit zone. And so sometimes that occurs also.
So let's talk, because I do want to keep going through this rapid fire thing, but the mechanization piece of it and the evolution of that. And you've brought a lot of that into our world of growers, because I think a lot of people think of that as low quality. When managed properly, whether it is doing 50%, 80% of the course work, and then you come back through and have to do a final, like, just let's call it a manicure pass. Like, it's got to be hand done to just hit that perfect level of what you're trying to achieve. That's where the value for high-end wine finds mechanical farming beneficial, and you're reducing injuries. You're keeping your crew, focusing on the high level of what you're trying to execute, rather than them getting tired out of pre-pruning as an example.
Right.
You can go through, cut off like 80% of all of this not deadwood, but this wood that you're not going to be utilizing. In the past, it was you make your cuts, and then you've got a pruning crew just ripping out all of this brush through these wires. Vines have tendrils; they're holding onto these wires. You're getting people getting whipped in the face. I mean, if you're not wearing glasses now for protection, you can have eye injuries. You can have back and shoulder, arm injuries.
You can have upper back injuries of neck and shoulder issues, back issues for pulling the brush out of the canopy.
So mechanization not only has assisted in attaining quality more efficiently, but also reducing potential injury for your workforce.
And it makes it more efficient because they're going through with that pre-pruner. They're removing all the brush from the canopy with the machine if you're cordon and spur pruning, and there's still some follow-up where the trellis system impedes the implement from cutting all the canes. But you're paying the crew to go through, and all they're doing is they're cutting. You're paying them to make those cuts to even out the spurs that you're leaving. Or if they go through and cane prune, you're paying them to do the proper cuts. But there's a lot of work left to be done to do.
There is a lot of
mechanization for cane. But
there is a lot of work, but you're no longer looking at like a forest. Right.
Right.
I think that's the beauty of it, is that like
Yeah.
you just immediately funnel the attention into the important parts.
Yeah.
And makes it not just more efficient, but really more guided into getting to that level of quality for that specific task.
Yeah.
So next up, crop thinning.
Yeah.
We're not going to
always
talk about sprays or anything on this one, just
That's always
because
the
that's
challenge.
a pain in the ass. But crop thinning with growers, yeah, that's always a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about the
Because
pain in the
you
ass
get
shit.
with them and you talk to them, and there's some guys that'll do the pass, and it's like, well, we did the pass. I'm like, okay, well, great, but you did it badly, so now we need to go back through the field again. And you give them the parameters of, basically the crop thinning for me, it starts with the weak shoots. So if there's weak shoots that are out there from the fruiting wire to the first set of catch wires, if they're below that, all the clusters come off of that. You can, if it's a potential location for a spur for the following year, you retain the shoot, but you clip the clusters off. If it's an area where the shoots maybe makes it between the middle catch wires and the upper catch wires, like halfway, if you think you can handle one cluster, then you just leave one cluster. But typically you're trying to outline this. One thing I was going to provide is that we do an example. So for leaf removal or shoot thinning, we always like flag an area of 15 to 20 vines. So if I can't show the grower what I want to do or want them to have their crew do, then how good are we? So you have to leave an example for these guys so they can bring their crew and say, okay, the crew leader or the vineyard manager meets with the crew leader and says, okay, here's the example of what the winery is expecting to do. Because we're trying to set the example for like, this is how we want the vineyard to look after the crew goes through the whole field. So it's with that. Or if you're doing crop thinning, I'll thin 30 or 40 vines and I'll say, here's the example of what we'd like to see done. So they get
Ejemplos
an
are
idea.
bueno.
What's that?
I said ejemplos are bueno. Examples are good.
Examples are good. Thank you. All right. Sorry.
Come on,
Your
Mateo.
dialect threw me off there, so.
Dude, I thought you were like basically
I was
half
just going.
Mexican.
I was going Spanglish there. No, but so we've gotten up to crop thinning, and the crop thinning. There's a couple parts of it, right? You have your decongestion pass where you
Yes.
want to make sure there's no touching clusters that are growing into each other, and then we're going to get into veraison, but I'm going to have to make this a part two. Because we got a
Cliffhanger.
lot more to talk about.
I
So
think it's going to be like part 3.
we got through the vegetative cycle and the history of Matthew Heil. And
There's a lot here.
and where we're at right now, we got so much more to talk about. But I got to go meet with one of our retailers in Pleasanton. So I got to get on the road. But thanks for being here today, Matt. We're going to jump into our next opportunity to be able to finish recording this. And
Yeah.
hey, everybody, come back for part 2 because
Yeah, well-
there's a shit ton of information. I think that the vegetative cycle to the ripening cycle, like how could we have a better break than this?
Yeah, everyone's
next-
at the edge of their seats
The
right now,
next
dude. People
episode
are-
is about the ripening of Go With Your Palate podcast.
Yeah.
and harvest, which gets even more
Yeah,
exciting.
that's it.
Yeah, so we'll have different fits too.
Come on back, y'all.